Welcome back, Stoner Squad, and of course a big welcome to all those new to the channel. My name is DanIsStoned, and thank you for joining me today to take a look at the very first dev diary of Victoria 3. When I say very first dev diary, the first official dev diary, actually going through something that's actually in the game or one of the mechanics, because the very first dev diary in brackets was the dev diary 0, which announced Victoria 3, so I'm going to consider this the very first official one, and it is talking about something that I am incredibly excited about, and that is Pops. And Pops, I love them in any grand strategy game. They are the lifeblood of these grand strategy games, and they are so goddamn needed, and I'm really, really happy that Victoria 3 has Pops. Now, I know Victoria 2 has Pops, but again, I've never played Victoria 2, so I really don't know what to expect with it. But I'm just happy there's Pops. I love Pops. I love management Pops. Pops give a breathing, kind of authentic and organic feel to the grand strategy games, and without them, well, the game is just not the same. But anyway, we're going to look through this dev diary in detail in this video. Again, this is coming from a neutral perspective, from somebody who's never played any Vicky game before, so honestly, I'm going to be learning stuff as we go along, which adds to the excitement for me, really, because I don't know what was in the previous Vicky, and I don't know what they're going to be taking from the previous Vicky into the new Vicky, and I've got no point of reference, so this makes it super interesting. So anyway, let's get down to the flesh and bones of the dev diary. So hello everyone, I'm Michael, Victoria 3's lead game designer, and oh boy does it feel good to finally be able to say it out loud. Today I have the pleasure of revealing some details about one of the features everyone thinks about when they hear about Victoria, and that is Pops. From everybody what I've spoken to, or anyone who talks to me about Vicky, they all talk about the Pops. And again, I'm just so happy there's Pops. I love Pops. I think I may have a bit of a pop fetish, if I can say that. Anyway, Pops were introduced in the very first Victoria to represent your country's population. Pop mechanics have since snuck into other Paradox titles like Stellaris and Imperator. Hey, shout out to Imperator, thank you. It may not be officially dead just yet, but this in-depth population simulation is what Victoria is about, and we're going to bring you a system with more depth than ever before. I seriously hope so. More depth to the Pops system, the better it is, really. Just more depth to Pops. Kudos to Pops, hooray to Pops, more depth for Pops. Everything Pops is great. In Victoria 3, Pops are the country's engine. They work industries, they pay taxes, they operate the government institutions, and they fight the wars. They're born, they die, and they change occupation. They migrate, they organise, and get angry, and start revolutions. I like this first paragraph because it kind of details, or kind of telling me anyway how I see this, is that the kind of Pops are an organic, kind of fluctuating entity within the game world that interacts with the actual world around it. So of course you can use them to operate your industries, so to produce your goods, which you can then sell on the market. You can also tax them, because of course the Pops, they kind of make the goods, which then you tax. And they operate government institutions, so of course, I mean, what would a government be without the actual people inside these institutions interacting with all the political stuff around? And of course, they're also essential for warfighting, which is obvious. I mean, God, if you want to fight a war, you're going to need people to fight it. They're born, they die, and change occupation, and they migrate. They organise, get angry, and start revolutions. And I like this because it kind of gives us the idea of a non-static or fixed Pop, a Pop that can actually migrate. And they actually kind of organically change over time, of course, through in the life cycle, of course, which they're born and they die, obviously. And then, of course, then that also implies that then down the Pop growth, where you will probably have to pay attention to the natality rate and the mortality rate, of course, and if your natality rate is higher than, or your birth rate is higher than the mortality rate. I said natality rate, no, that's my French coming in here, but the birth rate is higher than the kind of mortality rate, your Pop grows, and then of course if more people die than they are born, well, of course then you have a deficit in Pop growth and stuff, and that is also something that is probably going to be kind of interesting to see within the game. Of course, then they change occupation and migrate. They organise and they get angry, start revolutions. And again, this just doesn't mean that the Pops are linear. They can actually fluctuate through jobs. I mean, you may have a factory worker that, I don't know, this is all speculation again, because course, I've never played Vicky 2, and I have no idea what to expect in Vicky 3, but from what I can read here, you would assume that a pop could start out as I don't know, a farmer or something, or a labourer or whatever, and then maybe migrate to a city because there's more working opportunities or a better quality of life in this said area with the cities, and then as he gets there, one needs to find a new job, which means he would probably work then in the factories. And again, this is actually historically accurate, because at the time of the Industrial Revolution, throughout England and Europe and whatnot, there was a massive phenomenon, especially in England. The phenomenon in France was a lot less a lot less strong than it was in the UK. This is all coming from my university years, where you had an incredible amount of urban migration from people from the countryside all the way to the urban centres of the Industrial Revolution: Birmingham, Manchester, London, and all these areas. And of course, when they get there, they actually go there for a better quality of life, and of course to work in the burgeoning factories of industry that were emerging during this time. And hopefully this is kind of implemented in the game, and this is how I read this. I read this: when they change occupation, they migrate. Maybe better quality of life in certain states means they migrate to a certain state, and he possibly was a landowner or a farmer in the other state, and when he gets to the kind of urbanized city centers, with a high standard of living and, of course, better wages and stuff, then they may change job. They also organise, get angry, and start revolutions. So again, this implies that your kind of happiness of your pops and the kind of needs needs to be balanced. And of course, they're happy, then that's cool. They're loyal to you. They don't do anything to annoy you. But it also means that you better really make sure that they have what they need: good wages, good goods and stuff, or they can get angry and start revolutions. And revolutions, I'm very interested to see how they're going to implement this within Victoria 3. Every pop is visualized, so you can see which demographic sports the best moustache. Yeah, that is one sexy moustache there. That's good. I might try to grow one myself. I would, but it's ginger, so it doesn't work too much. But note that pop portraits are very much a work in progress. So I'm guessing that each pop, I don't know, how are they going to implement this? This is what I'm interested in. They say there's 1 billion pops at the start of the game, so I highly doubt they're going to be implementing a pop, like a kind of a pop image like this for every single pop. If they do, then bloody hell, that is a long time, and probably took them about 3 years already. But maybe the pop image is going to be representing the different pop groups. You've got a French Catholic clergyman. They look like that, and this is probably going to be, I don't know if it's going to be the baseline for all French clergymen. I'm guessing that they're going to be changing the looks depending on the culture. I'm highly certain that that will be the case. If you just go back to the Art of Vicky 3, the kind of panel where you could see a French ruler and then the Turkish guy, or the Turkish ruler, and you can see like the differences in their outfits and their looks. So maybe that is something they're going to be doing here. But I don't know if it's going to represent every single pop unit or the category of pops. That's what I want to know. Is all clergymen going to be kind of engrossed into this kind of image here that we're going to have, or would every kind of clergyman pop have a different portrait? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they're going to implement this, and I will be looking out for that in earnest. So you, the player, might be in charge of the country, but you're not in charge of the pops and can't manipulate them directly. You do everything in the country. You can everything you do, or yet everything you do in the country affects them, and will in turn they will react in what they perceive to be in their best own interests. A large part of your game will consist of trying to state your population's appetite for material goods or political reform, but most actions you take are not to the benefit of every pop in your nation, and by making life better for one part of the population, you may inadvertently upset another demographic. So again, this is a paragraph that also kind of particularly interests me, because you can't, by the looks of it, you don't control the pops directly. You can't directly manipulate them. Now, an example where you can directly manipulate pops would be, for example, in Power of Rome, where you can get the pop, you can migrate them, you can manually migrate if you wish by spending some gold or whatnot. And it looks like here it's going to be organic, and a lot more organic, which is good. I like the fact that the pops are going to react based on what decisions the player takes as the nation. You can't directly interact with the pops and make them do stuff. They react to the changes that you enact on the game world, and that is something that is good. I mean, I'm a big fan of like organic transformation or kind of fluctuating things which change depend on what you do, and not the kind of click to game sort of aspect of some games. And I'm not a big fan of. And hopefully this means, from what I read anyway, and this is how I interpret this from someone who's never played this Vicky game but has previous like experience from other Paradox titles, and this is how I will interpret this. And it seems to be that a large portion of the game will be trying to state your pop's appetite for material goods or political reform. So, of course, it comes down to the, can come back to the economics panel here, where they tell about that your pops have needs, you need to provide them with the basic needs to survive, to live. Each pop category has different needs than others, so the poorer ones are going to have more basic needs, the richer ones are going to have more kind of sophisticated and kind of richer needs from the people of high society, and that is something that we need to pay attention to. And of course, political reform. So maybe, I don't know, if like, let's say you're a monarchy, or start off as a monarchy somewhere, and then there wants to be some element of control, or if the people want more say in these political decisions that your nation is taking, well, then they might act for implementing a parliament or something. That's how I see it, and that would be good. Political, maybe also try to kind of enact laws or things that would improve their opinion of the actual kind of government that is ruling over them. Most actions will not be to the benefit of every pop, making life better for one part of the population. You may inadvertently upset the others. So it looks like that you're going to be taking decisions that's, you're going to try to, from what I read this, you're going to have like a knockoff effect where you're going to try to improve the opinion or improve the, how would I put this? I won't say opinion, but kind of improve their, how am I going to put this? I'm just going to say opinion because it's the only word I can think of. I can't really think of any other kind of word for it, but I don't think it's going to work on opinion. But the opinion of one to the detriment of another. So you're going to be doing something that one group approves with. Approve, I think that's the word I'm looking for. That approves with, and then the other group is not going to approve. So I don't know if they're going to be implementing a sort of kind of a thing where you kind of enact something which gives you opinion for a certain pop group and then decreases the opinion of another. Maybe something along those lines. But the most important aspect of pops are their professions, which reflects the type of job it carries out in the building where they work. A pop profession determines its social class and can affect its wages, political strength, and what other professions it might qualify for, and particularly which political interest group is prone to supporting, which you will hear a lot more in future Dev Diaries. Some professions, or some pop professions you want to count in Victoria 3: aristocrats, capitalists, bureaucrats, officers, shopkeepers, machinists, labourers, and peasants, investing in industries that provide job opportunities for the kind of professions you want to encourage in your country is key to the society building gameplay of Victoria 3. Now, the first thing that like gets my mind here, or kind of sticks out for me, is the very last sentence, where society building is a key gameplay of Victoria 3. And this is what I want to really emphasize, or kind of put the importance on this last bit before we go through the paragraph. Now, I am a big fan of civilization builders, society builders, civilization builders, and not war map painters. And this is why I am liking what I'm reading here. I like the fact of society building where the game loop is not consisted of go to war, kill, occupy the land, take over, rinse and repeat. This seems to be the society building is like the core element of the game. It's not just axed on warfare, which means I hope a lot of detail is going to be going into the other aspects. I hope warfare gets the decent amount of detail it's going to need, but I do like the fact that society building seems to be the core aspect of the game, and that is something I'm really liking. But going back to the paragraph here, the most important aspect of pops are their professions, which reflects the type of job it carries out in building as they work. So we're going to know, of course, there's going to be a lot of professions, from labourer, factory worker, I guess, quartermaster, military, whatever. Every building's got a profession, and I guess there's going to be a lot of them. I'm be looking forward to a dev diary that's going to list us an example of some professions, which would be quite nice. But it seems that the pop profession determines its social class and can affect its wages. So, of course, the highly qualified jobs, I'm guessing, are going to be kind of you're going to have to be paying them more, and of course, their social status would be higher. I'm guessing that I would say a quartermaster in a factory would be was it quartermaster in a factory? I think it's a quartermaster. I'm not sure. But anyway, one of the supervisors in the factory would have a bigger salary than, of course, the ones that are working on the factory floor. And, of course, then his social status will be, or his social stance and class will be different compared to the kind of low ebbed workers on the factory floor. And of course, then you go above that, you've got the factory owners, the capitalists and whatnot, who are of course at the very top of society, have a lot of money, and of course have a lot of like kind of social class. And I'm guessing this social class determines political clout, which again, you could say here, particularly which political interest groups is prone to supporting. So guessing the ones with more money, more money, higher social standing, going to have more political clout, which will determine which kind of political interest groups they have, which are probably going to be the ones that want to safeguard their fortune in detriment of the lower masses. So that is something pretty nice indeed. Some of the prop professions you encounter will invict. Oh, there are some actually. So aristocrats. Capitalist, bureaucrats, officers, shopkeepers, machinists, labourers, and peasants. So yeah, you're like peasants are going to be the lowest of the low. Then of course the labourers are going to work the lands, the machinists in the factories, the shopkeepers selling the goods that you're going to produce. Officers in the army, bureaucrats, the ones who kind of dictate your administration. Capitalists, the ones with the money, the ones with the ability to invest in buildings, in building your economy and making a massive production economy. And of course, they're obviously going to be paid more than the lowly peasant. And then of course, you've got the top, the creme de la creme, the aristocrats. And I'm guessing that, of course, the aristocrats, capitalists, bureaucrats, officers and stuff like that are going to be edging towards more kind of aristocratic political groups, more of the elite, while the others, of course, are going to be advocating for better working conditions, I suppose, for the poorer classes, the labourers, the machinists, and they're going to want to increase their pay and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this interacts with each other. Every variation of profession, culture, religion, and workplace in the world gets its own unique pop. At any given time, this results in many tens of thousands of pops in the world working, migrating, procreating, agitating. So this potentially answers part of my question based on if pops are going to have a specific type of kind of portrait for each pop, or is it going to be kind of cut into groups? So it looks like that every variation of profession, culture, religion, and workplace get its own unique pop. So you're going to have a machinist, a Catholic French machinist that works in a factory is probably going to have a very different portrait than an aristocratic bureaucrat who is from who is Arabic and of Bedouin culture. I'm just kind of bringing a load of different things together here, but you get the meaning, and it looks like it's going to be different. So this allows us to quickly take a look at the early footage of an example of a pop. So here we've got a Turkish Sunni pop. He's from the state of Diyarbakir, so that's his location. Is it one pop, or is it the... I don't know if it's one pop or the type, or maybe it's the Turkish Sunni. What kind of pop is it? Is it what worker? Does it say? Oh, a landowner. There we go. So we've got a wealthy landowner. So maybe there's Turkish Sunni landowner. Maybe there are 7,970 of them in the state of Diyarbakir. I think that is what it telling us here, and that they represent, maybe, is that the amount that are actually working in the workforce? So you've got 1,700 and or is it 1.74k? Is that 100? Is that 1,740 or 174,000? My math is really off here, but no, I think it's 1,740. You know what? I don't know. I probably need to check that. But anyway, get my awful maths aside here. It looks like you can see the amount of the total population of these Turkish Sunni landowners in the state of Diyarbakir. You've got the amount that work in the workforce and the amount that are dependents. We'll get onto that a bit later on. You can see how much they make, I suppose, or how much they generate in cash, or how much they're being paid. I honestly don't know. You can see how many of them are radicals or loyalists. So radicals, the ones who kind of don't have the necessary needs or don't have the basic supplies that they need to keep themselves happy. Again, just go to the the Vickynomics panel to see more information about that. And then the loyalists, the ones who have their basic needs satisfied and they are happy. You can see the interest group here, which is the landowners. Their political strength. I don't know how that translates into a number, no idea. And then, of course, you've got the net income. Is that how much they make or how much we make off them? Again, I don't know. You get a description of them. So wealthy landowners, old money with old connections. It's owners of farms and plantations. They contribute some of their profits to the investment pool. Okay, some of their profits go to the investment pool. What's that? I have no idea. Their political interests are represented as the landowners. So the landowners, that's their interest group. and these are the people that own land. So they're more of a higher category of society, the higher echelons, the landowners, the ones with the money. They do own the land back then. And the part of the upper class, which you can see is here. And you can see the aristocrats in the Ottoman Empire. There is 244,000. So this is 7,970, is it? Or 7? I don't know. 244,000, and their political strength is 1.55 million. I don't know how that works. You can see what they support. You can see if they support local governors, armed forces, or Sunni madrasas. That's the intelligentsia, the madrasas, I'm guessing. I know what a madras is. A madras is it's kind of a learning school. It's like an Arabic learning school, the equivalent of, I'm going to say university in brackets, which is not exactly university, but it's where they teach religious law and that sort of stuff. So it's basically Sunni intelligentsia. The armed forces and local governors, so it's who they support, and other interest groups as well. Only pops with adequate wealth can become aristocrats. Potential increases with greater wealth and to a less degree literacy. Pops whose culture faces discrimination takes a much longer time. Officers and bureaucrats have a particularly easy time becoming aristocrats. So this actually confirms what I was thinking about the organic fluctuation of pops. So only pops with wealth can become aristocrats. So if if pops kind of gain wealth, then they can probably change, if pops gain wealth, then they could probably change and become aristocrats. And the potential to increase is increased depending on how much cash they have, but also a small degree of literacy. So, of course, literacy was a prime accessor to the higher strata of society. The more literacy back then was incredibly low. Most people who could read were generally the elites, the clergy. Of course, the clergy had to learn, all the religious scriptures. And then you got the elites. And then the rest, really, a lot of the common folk could not read. So it's interesting to see that it does condition the access to a potential strata of society, which is very interesting. Pops whose culture face discrimination take a longer time, so I'm guessing there's going to be I'm going to say discrimination policies, but you're going to be able to do stuff that kind of discriminates against a pop, maybe putting a certain category of pop outside being able to work in a specific function. Maybe a certain category of culture pops, you can say, no, you're not going to work in my factories, we'll stop you from working there. I don't know. Officers and bureaucrats have a particularly easy time becoming aristocrats because, of course, officers and bureaucrats are of the higher echelons of society, of course, and officers and aristocrats back in the time anyway, they kind of could read and write. You probably needed to. You definitely needed to. So that is all very interesting. Again, my math is awful on this, and so yeah, you can laugh at my math. I'll let you do that. Anyway, the people that make up a pop are distinguished into workforce and dependents. Now this is going to be interesting. Members of the workforce keep the buildings in the game operational and collect a wage from them in return. Those who cannot or aren't permitted to be officially employed are considered dependents. They collect a small income from odd jobs and government programs. Now we have finally got our description of workforce and dependents. So members of the workforce seems to be here, the workers of your buildings. They're going to work in your factories, they're going to work in your labouring farms, they're going to be working in your goods producing factories, they're going to be working in the bureaucracy in the army. And these are operational, they collect a wage. You're paying them a wage, they're doing a job, and you are providing them with with income, a wage. And of course, these wages can be then taxed by the government, and it increases your national revenue. Now, of course, if you want more information on that, do go and check out the Wikionomics. They do details in not intricate detail, but they do kind of tell you the different strata of taxes available, and income tax is one of them. Those who cannot be officially employed are considered as dependents. So I'm going to guess these are people that are not working in your kind of factories, your farms, your other kind of industry buildings. And these are ones that either because they can't work, maybe because they're injured, maybe because they're old. So it's going to be children, women maybe. This allows us to speculate about women. I mean, what are women going to be doing? Are they going to be, can you enact laws to make them work in the workplace? Like example, World War II, for example, was a good example where they, even though World War II is not going to be in the game, but World War II, basically, women in mass were kind of brought to the factories to make ammunition because no men were available because we're fighting wars. Would you be able to pass such laws? That is something else that I'm very interested to find out. Children, of course, can't work. Old people can't work. Disabled people, ill people. All of these people are going to make up these dependents, which is going to be super interesting indeed. And these dependents, they only collect a small income from odd jobs and government programs. So maybe government programs will be the handouts. Maybe if you're going to be trying to make yourself into a social welfare state, where government handouts are the thing, social security and all that sort of stuff. Maybe it's doable. I'm guessing it's going to be. And the odd jobs, maybe it's people who are unemployed, there's not enough jobs going around, and you've got a high rate of unemployment. These people are going to be called dependents, I guess. And they're going to be doing odd jobs, maybe, just to try and scrape a living. And it's all going to be cool and super interesting to see how this all interacts with each other. Laws affect who is included in each category of the game. Most countries do not accept working women working and collecting a wage outside their home, but by forming laws governing the rights of women, more dependent pops will enter the workforce over time. By abolishing child labour, the amount of income dependents bring home decrease, but will make it easier to educate your populace, increasing overall literacy. After bloody war, many dependents of soldiers may be left without sufficient income, and you may decide to institute pensions to help your population recover. Now, this does actually answer the question that I've been kind of asking myself. Now, of course, I didn't read this before. I thought I'd go over it with you straight away without me checking it out, so you can get my first reaction to it. So yeah, it looks like I was kind of right there. So women don't work and they are considered dependents, but you can bring them in with laws, which is interesting. Same for children. It can abolish child labour. Now, of course, child labour back then was a thing. If you go down the mines, of course, the coal mines, children were used countless times to go into the tight nooks and crannies. Of course, then you've got in the military and the navy, where powder monkeys, what they were called, where they used to kind of ferry gunpowder bags from cannon to cannon in the midst of a blazing gun battle. I mean, child labour was pretty much predominant. And of course, it does say abolishing it increases your literacy, because of course they don't work. You can maybe make them go to school, and of course increase your literacy, then increase the literacy of your pops, which then makes them maybe more qualified to do more jobs and stuff. It all is a chain reaction, and it is super interesting. In a bloody war, many soldiers will become dependent, so again, they get injured, and they can't kind of work. So this is honestly super, super interesting read. In short, nothing in your country runs without pops, and everything about your country affects pops, who in turn provide new opportunities and challenge during your tumultuous journey through the Victorian era and beyond. I have so much more to say, but that's it for this week. You'll hear more from me in future Dev Diaries. Next week, Martin will return to explain something quite central to the game, capacities. Now, this Dev Diary for the first one has been, I really like the looks of it, because it does confirm that pops are going to be the main aspect of the game. And of course, the pops and their interaction and relation with the world that surrounds them, and that for me is just a match made in heaven. Pops are, for me, in grand strategy games, are absolutely essential. And I've just lost my headset here, my battery's going, so of course you can hear my awful you can hear my awful noise of my headset beeping because I have no battery left. But now I'm back. But yeah, so it does make it very exciting for me, and pops in grand strategy games are essential, and I cannot wait for the next Dev Diary. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me, people. If you enjoyed this video, of course, please don't hesitate to hit that like button down below. And if you want to see some more content like this, I will be covering Victoria 3 extensively. Please do smash that like button. And of course, fabricate a claim on that subscribe button. But with all that said and done, thanks for being here, and I'll hopefully catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.